If American politics is like House of Cards, full of backstabbing, drama, and leaks,
I don't care how much it hurts. I don't care how controversial it is. Your job is to find a way.
Chinese politics is more like a perfectly organized filing cabinet. Neat, quiet, predictable. That's not by accident. That's the point. So if you were expecting a dramatic coup or a surprise power shakeup at China's Fourth Plenary session, sorry to disappoint. Wrong show. I know it sounds boring, but stay with me, because understanding why it's boring actually explains how the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, keeps control of the country. And hey, I'm just a panda, what do I know? Well, enough to make this make sense.
We're in a very gray area, ethically, legally, which I'm okay with.
For the CCP, the worst thing isn't bad publicity, it's the appearance of weakness. In America, you can have chaos on the news, protests outside Congress, and politicians yelling at each other, and all in a single day.
I wasn't exactly sure how it got leaked.
In China, the party tries to show the opposite. Total harmony, perfect order, no surprises. Why? Because it's a one-party system. There's no election every few years to refresh who's in charge. So the party's number one goal is to keep everyone believing it's stable, strong, and completely in control. If people start thinking the party is struggling or divided, that can shake confidence. And if confidence cracks, power can crack too. In Western politics, leaders argue openly about policies. In China, the action happens inside the wording of official statements. If something might cause a public argument, embarrassment, or confusion, they simply don't do it. When people inside the system are removed or punished, it's usually announced as an anti-corruption campaign. But those announcements come long after the real action already happened behind closed doors. And language is everything. When the government sets a goal for, say, the year 2035, it's not just a policy target. It's also a quiet way of saying, we plan to still be in charge in 2035. Now, about this fourth plenum everyone's been talking about. On the surface, not much happened, but the real story took place before the meeting even started. In the weeks leading up to it, several high-ranking military officials, some of them close to Xi Jinping, China's top leader, were suddenly removed. No one said exactly why. Officially, it was disciplinary action. Unofficially, it looked like another round of political house cleaning. So by the time the meeting began, the message was already clear. The party had tightened its grip, cleaned up potential trouble, and everyone else was expected to smile for the cameras. In other words, the results happened before the meeting. And then came something even stranger. Out of 42 military representatives who sit on the party's central committee, 33 are full generals, and 9 are lieutenant generals. Of those 33 full generals, 22 didn't show up at the Fourth Plenum. 8 of those absentees have already been officially taken down, expelled from the party, dismissed from their posts, gone. But the other 14, they've simply vanished from public view. No explanations, no announcements, just empty seats. It doesn't stop there. Every branch of the armed forces, the Army, the Navy, the Rocket Force, the Strategic Support Force, their top commanders and political commissars were missing. The only branch still present, the Air Force. And even within the Central Military Commission, which is like China's version of the Pentagon, every department head was absent except one, the head of the Joint Staff Department. Now, for people in China, that's jaw-dropping. For Western viewers, let me put it another way. Imagine the United States holds a major national security summit at the White House. The president, the vice president, top cabinet officials, and half the Joint Chiefs of Staff don't show up. The Secretary of Defense is missing. The heads of the Army, Navy, and Strategic Command are unavailable. No explanations, no reporters asking questions. Everyone just pretends it's normal. In Washington, that would be a full-blown constitutional crisis. There would be breaking news alerts, live coverage, investigative reports, press conferences. It would dominate headlines for weeks. But in Beijing, there was silence. No official comment, no journalist questions, no public explanation. Just the usual photos and the official line, everything is stable. And when a one-party system starts quietly purging generals, that's not just a personnel change. That's a loyalty test at the very top of the pyramid.
What is it you want? Your absolute, unquestioning loyalty.
When the cameras finally rolled, there was very little footage released, but sharp-eyed viewers noticed one moment where a senior military officer, who's rumored not to be on great terms with Xi, kept his head down while Xi was speaking, while everyone else sat straight and attentive. Now, if you're watching from the West, you might think, okay, so he looked tired, no big deal. But in China, that kind of body language means a lot. Chinese political meetings are choreographed down to the eyebrow. Everyone knows when to clap, when to smile, when to nod. It's not spontaneous. It's part of showing loyalty and unity.
Do you understand how you're to behave?
And if I don't play along?
We'll cleave you from the herd and watch you die in the wilderness.
So when someone breaks that rhythm, even slightly, doesn't clap in sync, doesn't look up, doesn't match the tone, people notice. And in a culture that values harmony and saving face, that's huge. And to make sure everyone knew where loyalty stands, right as the plenum opened, state media, People's Daily, and Xinhua released big editorials repeating the same line. Standing at a new historical starting point, let us unite even more closely around the party's central committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core and fully implement Xi Jinping thought for a new era. That's basically a political oath of allegiance, a way of saying, yes, Xi is still the core, and this meeting isn't changing that.
I print whatever you tell me, and I'll never ask any questions.
In plain English, that means stay the course, don't rock the boat. While all of that was going on inside, the rest of the country, and even nature, seemed to be reacting in its own strange way. During the plenum, videos went viral of huge flocks of dark birds swirling over cities and goats wandering into places they don't normally belong. Were they actually protesting? Of course not. But people online joke that even the animals are rebelling. It shows something deeper. When information is tightly controlled, people start looking for meaning everywhere. When you can't talk about politics directly, you talk about symbols, omens, even animals. And speaking of creativity, someone made an AI-generated short film showing the CCP being replaced and Xi being escorted out of the meeting. Completely fictional? Maybe. But it seems to be the dream of Chinese people and went viral. Why? Because when real discussion is off limits, fiction becomes the language of emotion. If you're ever watching one of these big Chinese meetings, here's a little guide. Don't get distracted by rumors about who's missing or who looked grumpy. Instead, pay attention to what the party chooses to say and what it avoids saying. Watch for the verbs and the years in official statements. Strengthen, optimize, stability, 2035. Those are the real signals. When the party says stability, it means no big changes. When it says high-quality development, it means same direction, do it better. When it says 2035, it means we're planning for the long run. And when state media repeats Xi at the core, it means the leadership lineup is not up for debate. Here's the bottom line. If you want to understand Chinese politics, don't wait for the fireworks. Read the fine print. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a panda. Click those like and subscribe buttons, then click this next video for more awesome panda reports.